Hello there folks, this is IFNJ on board again. Welcome to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics about spirituality, introspection, and at rare times psychology, psychiatry, and well, many other topics that people may find somewhat difficult or challenging to come up with an answer. And well, such ideas also include, for example, game design, and I'm slowly expanding towards game development. So I'm gonna share some of my wisdom, okay, that I've acquired through my life with people, and I also prefer reminding people that these are all parts of sources that I've been reading, encountering, hearing, listening to, and they're also part of my life experiences to a certain extent. So I want to remind people not to take them for granted, okay? So today I decided to actually answer a question on the topic of, well, on Quora actually, and answer a question regarding the INFJ personality. Now, to speak a bit about myself, I've taken the Meyer-Briggs test twice, and well, it was an online version. I didn't go to a psychiatrist. Usually I kind of doubt humans, not because I would doubt their skills, but the quality of their perception, the quality of them understanding certain things beyond just mental. Okay, the mental dimension is important, but up till there is no such thing as deeper understanding. When you only use your mind, it's only a sense of control, and you have a sense of control because things that are logical to you, suddenly they are very important, and things that don't sound logical to your mind, they suddenly are not useful. So the first time I did the Meyer-Briggs test, I ended up as an extrovert introvert hybrid, ENTP and INTP at the same time, and as usual I've kind of ended up as being a hybrid, because I've known ever since I was young I'm intricate enough to not be easily classifiable as one simple or one single thing. A bit later, I think 1 or 2 years later, when I did the Meyer-Briggs test again, I ended up as an INFJ. And I've also read about this and ENTP, INTP, and I can actually say I have around, or at least actually 60% of ENTP, INTPs and INFJs, because I know I'm a very intricate construct, and well, gathering wisdom has been something that's been representing my life, and especially nowadays, I mean towards the later part. And in case you're wondering, I'm not yet 30, I will be 30 quite soon. Now, the INFJ personality, it's been something on Quora that's been almost bombarding me. It's like people always ask so many questions about this personality as if it's something overly supernatural, and reading things about it, it kind of gave me the impression that it's much more different, but to me it simply can't be too different, because well, I simply don't like putting labels on myself, okay, and on anything else, because labels again are meaning, and the meaning is only needed to the mind. I just seek to transcend these and move beyond the such. Okay, I actually have a few videos on my YouTube channel about the meaning of meaning, and meaning being a sense of self-destruction button. I was also inspired by Tell's Swan video for this idea when it came to meaning as a self-destruction button. She also has a very deep video on this. Now, the point about this personality is that, well, I can in a way label myself as an INFJ, but self-labeling is not something necessarily you could deem as productive or good, because giving yourself titles is usually something that dummy people do, okay, those who have a sense of persona, okay, they don't know much about the world or whatever things, but they just have a sense of entitlement that they know it all. So I would just let people understand, okay, that I am this or that based on their own perception, and again, the labels that people give are nothing else than their own experiences. Okay, so if someone, and also they can be their own points, okay, and opinions about themselves. Because if someone comes and calls you an idiot, most likely that is their own opinion about themselves, but it is much easier to project it on someone else, because removing the blame makes them feel much better. But if you look deeper into their eyes, you will see that they are not comfortable and they are not good with their life because they are running away from their authenticity. And if you look on my little series of videos that I have about video games, okay, and I present real life as a video game also, and I also say that video games, just like imagination, they are some parallel worlds and lives that we can actually that we actually live, okay, when we actually experience, because life is nothing else than experience. With life being nothing else than experience, basically everything you experience is real. Be it that you have some kind of hallucinations, well, hallucinations are something that, you know, we have created, okay, because as I said, the mind and science is only mental, okay, because science is about the mental and the psychological, okay. Once these two are bypassed, science no longer makes any sense, because there are things beyond that that cannot be easily explained. You cannot explain life by just mental definitions, because when you give meaning to something, most likely you're making something much smaller out of the possibility that that thing can be, okay. Just like science has been wrong so long up till now, and the logic of it is still wrong, because most people believe nowadays, and probably they will believe a long time, for example, that life is biological and cannot be otherwise, okay. But even your machines, okay, your phone is alive, okay, your computer is alive. Now many people would say that you know, only things that have a metabolism can exist, okay, can be called alive, but you are calling them alive, okay. That's the point, okay. Ever since I was young, yes, indeed, I've had something that I called how to call it, well, actually I'll give it my own naming. It's conceptual or concept aversion. I simply disliked concepts and meaning and all sorts of ideas, viewing these as a kind of mind viruses whose purpose is to control your mind. And I've kind of been deeply attracted to this idea of, you know, entities that crawl beyond what you perceive as your own, and, you know, replicate themselves as thoughts of your own, and then slowly and surely take control of your mind. And I could say I've been fantasizing about this for quite a long time, but I've actually been interested in this for as long as, I think, the 6th grade, when I started thinking about such. And actually, if I remember correctly, even a bit before that, but the 5th and 6th grade were my first moment when I, you know, began you know, seeing things a bit differently. Like, I started realizing that I was different, and I've been in 3 kindergartens, 2 elementary schools, 3 high schools, okay. One of them also included the secondary school, and, you know, 2 different faculties, one which I flunked, not because I couldn't finish it, but because I lost interest in it, and, you know, a master degree. So I got to know quite a lot of people, and I was always in the extreme, okay. Actually, not necessarily in the extreme, but, you know, when I got there were people who would somewhat like me, and there were people who would downright ignore me, okay. And when I was young, this actually had a kind of a impact on me, because I simply couldn't understand why everyone else was together and I was the outcast, okay. Like, and later on I actually discovered that reading people was like easy peasy, okay. Like, I would tell things to people and they were like, how the fuck do you know? And when I met a friend on Discord, it actually took a month of talking, and, you know, before we actually, you know, friended the other one on Discord, because I never accepted the fact that, you know, titles would actually mean something. Just because you have a friend on Facebook, it doesn't mean shit, okay. So, you know, and I was talking on a Discord server, okay, and I was actually presenting certain things, and the people were like somewhat amazed. Yes, I kind of, you know, pumped up the atmosphere a bit, and this friend of mine tells a few things, and I told a few things about himself just by the way he would write, and he kind of came up with a quote that said, when someone else that you don't know knows more about you, that's a bit spooky. Okay, so okay, I was like, good to know. People feel a bit awkward when you suddenly can feel their problems, because most people feel that they are damned to an eternity, or at least a life of pain, and they believe that no one can actually, and not only that, but they believe that they are not entitled to anyone finding their problems and solving them, which is kind of a bad way of thinking, because no one should be solving your problems but you. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking for some people to actually help you in that process. So now the point that I'm gonna pick on is the idea of personality. Okay, so I have masked the name of the person. Probably if you scroll back to the beginning you can actually see it, but I don't know if it actually serves any purpose. So to pick a bit on the concept of personality, this is one of the most ridiculous things that humanity has created, and what I believe personally, this world is suffering from such a great sense of personality. Okay, such a sense of meaning that we have been attributing to literally everything, and personality is nothing else than a persona. Okay, now you might ask, okay, then what's a persona? Well, from the Latin word, okay, persona comes from the Latin persona, yes. I've discovered America. And this word actually does not mean a person. Okay, so persona actually means a character. Okay, so the persona is nothing else than a mask, okay, a character, and it's a term that came from ancient times theater. Okay, so the persona meant that the actor would put a mask on their face and they would act as a certain character. Okay, be those characters, depends, some heroes, some gods, forces of nature probably, and they would put those masks on and then they would act as the certain character. The mask would hide their face because they actually had to give the people the impression that they are something else. Okay, and this idea of theater did nothing else than propagate, or actually draw its roots from a thing that people would keep doing, because in society I think this is a death spiral that we've been going through like hundreds of generations, probably thousands of generations before, because in society people will always have masks. A mask towards your boss, towards your employees, towards different other people, towards your family, towards your so-called boyfriend or girlfriend, and so on and so forth. But what a mask ultimately means is you're pretending, you're hiding, because when you have a persona, okay, the persona means nothing else than hiding. Okay, because you have something that you don't like and you think, I really want you to understand this word, okay, you think that people won't like it either. Okay, so not liking it is also a problem, because you're gonna attribute it a lot of negative correlations. You're gonna say people won't like it, but that's a belief. Now, what a belief stands for is nothing else than a set of ideas or a single idea that you embrace without the necessity for a proof. That's what a belief is. For example, most people just believe what the television says. Okay, if the television says something, you'll see so many people, oh my god, okay, they just overreact. And when they react or overreact, it means they have acquiesced. Okay, they have accepted that idea without fighting. Exactly the same thing that happened with the COVID case, right? Like, now everything was normal, 1 hour later everyone was already wearing masks. It's like, what the fuck? Isn't anyone actually nowadays doing any research at all? It's like so many people put questions, but for many reasons I refuse to answer, because I'm not interested in providing free answers. I'm interested in being just like the pure old school sci-fi. Okay, I want to have the person put a question, and then they are met with other questions, okay? And I don't want to ask them necessarily questions. I want to have them become introspective and actually reach those questions and ask themselves those questions, okay? Why they have chosen this, why they have chosen that, why they have been blocked, or impeded by this idea, okay? Impeded, wait, I don't know, limited, okay? And question their beliefs, because that's how you actually help people. And that's why most psychologists actually are wrong in many situations, because what they do is just they give impressions based on what other great folks did or said, okay? Now, what I don't like about psychology and psychiatry in most situations is because, again, they are mental based. They are mind based, which is not necessarily a good thing. Well, in my case, because I want to, and I prefer transcending the mind and going beyond to always, see the greater picture. I'm not interested in just, following instructions. That's just like living as a machine, okay? The machine, you give it some instructions and it follows them, if it can. That's how most people are. The television says this, okay, they just execute. That's why I call such people NPCs. And the people who go through their awakening, and who doubt things, they are kind of like the players, okay? They're grinding stuff, okay? They're seeing different things, they're doing certain quests about themselves, okay? They're doing some shadow work, they're trying to understand certain things, they're trying to see why that thing is failing or why that thing is not working, they want to have as much awareness of something that is beyond the just simple, okay? That picture that you have, because when you are born and up till a certain age, you are just programmed by parents and close friends and different people, which is also part of your learning experience, okay? This is not something bad, but you're kind of given a certain picture, okay? It's like a painting, it doesn't change much, okay? That's how people want life to be, like a painting. And then when you speak about that you want to change that, everyone is gonna freak out. So many people run away from change, disregarding the idea that change is the only constant. So that's the problem with personality. Personality is something that's exactly like the painting that I said, okay? It's not going to change, and also it needs a lot of energy to maintain. And when you have 20 of these masks, okay, or personalities, it's not that you are suffering from multiple personality, okay? That's something complex, okay? That's something beyond this. Okay, multiple personality is something that is existent, has its own spiritual, how can I call it? Let's say not necessarily definition, but causes. Okay, everything also has a spiritual cause, but I don't want people to understand that that spiritual cause is the only or the most important cause. Okay, because yes, sure, cancer has, for example, its spiritual causes. Okay, and there are many more factors that actually take that into account. Okay, there are also medical factors, there are spiritual factors, psychological factors, because cancer can also be created just because you want to die. Okay, just because you start moaning and you always keep complaining that your life is shit and you wish you died. Okay, and there is that one of the most powerful quotes is, be careful what you wish for. Now, wishing for your death is something quite dummy, because that's anyways gonna happen, but the more you focus on something, you can actually make it happen earlier, okay? Even through your thoughts, because thoughts are like spells. Whatever you think is gonna impact you. That's how most people actually end up with a personality, okay? Because people don't suck, okay? Their personality sucks, okay? Their programming sucks, because they say, I'm not good enough, I cannot do this is definitely not for me, right? Like when I was in the master's degree, okay, we had a class about comedy, okay? And comedy was something like we had to read an article, okay? And the article was about English and American comedy, okay? And it spoke about that, but one important thing was like this, okay? So the way a personality is shaped by the country, okay, is like in America in school you're taught that even you can be the next president of the state. Now don't take this like word for word, okay? It's that it gives you the impression that you're much more, and even if it's an impression, it can actually help, because at least it's aiming you to, it's helping you or helping you understand, okay, to aim for a bit more. While in Britain it is said that the role of a president, okay, that's definitely not for you. Now, of course, the way I put it is not as funny as like reading that specific article, which was handed to us by the teacher, so I don't know the source, but it was a very important way to actually realize that even the country that you're born in also has a way of shaping your personality, okay? Like, I'm from southeast Romania, and this is one of the more aggressive parts, not necessarily like physically, okay? It's aggressive in a sense of corrosiveness, okay? It's very corrosive through the idea of ignorance, okay? This is one of the most ignorant parts of the world, I could say, and it's part of the Balkan area, which belongs to the so-called, as of what I heard from a source, it belongs to what the planet calls the left Vishuddhi area, okay? The left part of the voice chakra, okay, the sound chakra of the planet, because the planet also has its own chakras. Don't take this for granted, okay? It is just a single source that I read, but it is a place that is represented by self-victimization, and I can actually attest to that. There are so many people doing that, and I think this part of the country actually is a pole of that, a capital of that, okay? There are so many people who do that, and our entire history actually attests to that. Sure, of course, you may not probably believe me, but I'm not here to have people believe me in everything that I say. Now, as I've been saying about personality, it's not something good, because personality means you're not authentic, okay? Even most of the people who get on stage and give you the impression that they are authentic, they are much more authentic than most people, yes, but they might get still attached to their newfound personality, and if you look carefully at them, with some you might actually see that they still are not fully completed, because their authenticity is not full. The moment they have turned their name into a brand, most likely they have created a personality, and they enjoy that personality because it's much better than the previous ones, okay? So having a personality is usually not a good thing, okay, but it is a critical thing for this world, okay? It's not good to exaggerate with it, okay? It is good to embrace one, okay, and have a personality, because when you are born, okay, when you are given this mind, because well, I have a video about life and death, okay, and when the body is left by the facet of consciousness, because I don't believe in souls, when the body is left, okay, all the mental ideas that you had are left in the body. You don't take them outside of the body, okay? And when you leave the body, the point is you no longer have a discerning mind, okay? Once you are in the body, you have a discerning mind. That's why you have the capacity to create ideas, to judge, okay, because judging is part of this mind, okay, of this body's mind. Once you leave this body, you no longer will remember who this and that person is, all these ideas. Now again, these are some sources that I have come up across, so again, don't rush to take them as I say it. The INFJ personality is represented by people who are usually mysterious and, kind of like me. Every time I would get into a new class, I would have different classmates. Usually I would go to a place and start doing my things, usually writing books or ideas that I would want to turn into books, which I eventually never published, because I would always start a new one, because I had such an influx of ideas. I could find it very hard to actually keep track of them and actually note them down. And so people were kind of, intrigued by me because I was this person who would simply disregard the group. And at the same time, it actually won me some favor at the same time in, well, most groups, especially the later ones from high school onwards, because being that person that is separate, okay, it showed people that, when you are in a collective, okay, there's usually, like in our school collectives, when I was in school, there would be around 25 to 30, 32 probably, let's say at least 20, 21, 25 children, okay. And these pupils, or later on students, they always form those little churches, okay. That's how we call them in Romanian. We call them bisericuțe, which is the diminutive for church, okay. The small groups, there's always a small group here and a small group there, because usually groups rarely get to be united as a whole, okay. So I was the one who usually was, like I was my one-man church, okay. I was my one-man group. And in any of these collectives, usually there was that one, or there were those two probably, persons that I would go very well with, but I wouldn't necessarily make a fuss out of that, okay. And the point about this was, people would see, because you see, when you are the awkward one, you easily stand out. That's a point. You see, when people have nothing too great to do, they will simply start gossiping. And the school breaks are always a good, the breaks in between the classes are always a good moment you can actually start gossiping. So in the meantime, I would draw, or I would do different things, like, again, writing stuff. Usually either writing stuff or rarely talking to a colleague, but I would write stuff even during the hours, okay, during the classes. Wait, yes, in Romanian we call them hours, in English it's called classes, yes. So the point is that people who don't know things about you, they have to label you in some way. And I've seen throughout time that people would usually come to you sooner or later, and I kind of liked the idea of being approached instead of approaching others, because it's much easier when I can present myself to one or two people instead of actually presenting myself in front of the same class. When you do that, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually something that can be called courageous. But you see, when you are stranger than the others, or, well, at least when you are labeled as that, the point is, when you present yourself in the face of 20 or 30 people that don't know you, they will all end up with awkward conclusions about you. And that's usually what drove people to getting in contact with me. And at the same time, people would, gossip about this, about that, and obviously sooner or later you will be gossiped about as well. And people would see that if a certain group would speak to me, I would go back to my seat afterwards, and I would see my own things. If I'd go speak with another collective, I wouldn't speak what I heard from that collective. How did they know? Well, because when people gossip, okay, they usually keep such a distance that they can eavesdrop on the other group as well. And when you can hear again and again that what they are gossiping about is not what you told to this and that person, then your secret is is safe. Now the point about this is, I'm not interested in keeping other people's secrets safe, okay. Like I've had this thing happen to me, and it's called an IFNJ, whatever you want to call it, IFNJ, INFJ, whatever, it's the same thing. That people who don't even know you, they just come to you and start pouring things. And this is one of the things as an INFJ you have to learn, because there are all these freeloaders. There is a very great short video by Prince Ia, whose videos, a few of them I've been seeing, and they actually drop quite a bomb on wisdom. And it's about a Uber driver who smiles at someone who's swearing at them, okay. And then he learns, well, the character depicted in there learns that everyone, or most people, are nothing else than garbage trucks. They have a shitty life, and sooner or later they just want to dump their garbage on someone. And as this happens, you're probably gonna be a target. So unless you're building healthy boundaries, and this is something that your personality should include, well, that's a tough lesson for INFJs to learn. Now you will see a lot of things about IFNJs, and you will probably hear that they are people pleasers, but they're not necessarily specifically people pleasers, okay? Everyone is taught as a people pleaser in this society because this society is sickly in love with being a people pleaser. And usually you will find so many people with narcissistic and or sociopathic traits because that's what this society has been breeding and nurturing for countless generations. Okay, because these people are traumatized by parents who haven't been taught how to do real parenting, okay, how to go beyond their urges and problems that they have faced when they were children, and then as they grew up they just took up their parents' specifics considering they're good and so on and so forth, and they would break them in the heads of their children. And even now in my country many people actually have children just so that they can dump their negativity on someone, and those children usually grow up and they do the same thing, probably becoming even worse. So the point about the INFJ, okay, you will hear so many things about them being intuitive, but usually the most striking one would be that they are so-called natural people pleasers. This can be this can be quite true in a way, but the point is INFJs are considered to be just 2% of the population of the planet. Strangely, I've seen so many people with similar like I've met, not seen around me, but I've seen a few, and I've met and I've talked with people with such traits, or several traits, not necessarily a full INFJ personality. Like, I'm not fully INFJ, but I know I have those deeper aspects, like being able to read through people, being able to understand some of their problems and feel those as if I'm kind of them, always being curious and childish, but at the same time being very logical, and I will break each and every problem to the minutest of details, which is something that's been helping me with my games design, and like breaking everything down. And before I start working at several things, I even know what some exploits might be. So like my mind is always this furnace of ideas that it's if I were to analyze myself, I would say I have a very chaotical way of doing things, but I end up doing them well. And there's only been one source that told me that, when I would read about a certain angel number that I would keep seeing, which I kind of forgot because there's kind of 100 angel number that I keep seeing. So regarding this topic that I've seen, and up till now I have been leaving for last, okay, so not all of the INFJ personalities goal dust to have, as many of the core personality traits are not only rare but unique. The power of intuition and the effortless ease, you're able to not only read and understand people and groups of people, but you're also able to think outside the box and do what most people in the world consider impossible. Now this is something that is typical to some IFNJs. Now what I want you to understand is that, again, psychology and psychiatry are just feeble attempts of the mind to understand the world. Okay, these things are typical to all people. All people have these traits. It's just that IFNJs tend naturally to be more in tune with these ideas, okay, because the mind is, you're gonna use 5%, let's say up to 10 if you're a genius, probably 10-20% of your mind's potential, okay, and there are thousands of dimensions within your mind, okay. That's something that you're probably gonna experience a few of those. That's why you'll probably have some things which are called hallucinations, or see dark spots with the corner of your mind, or luminous points floating around, or different other things, okay. For glimpses, for fractions of seconds, your mind may actually switch to a different higher dimension, or well, a different dimension, not necessarily higher one, and that may actually give you a glimpse of what may be in there, okay, because all these dimensions overlap this one. If you would go into 5D, it's exactly like this one, except that it's gonna feel somewhat different. Okay, now that's the 5D of perception, because this dimension, okay, cannot be transposed into 5D, because in 5D all these materials are purely physical, so they might not exist in there, because that's a dimension that's less physical. But they might actually be this world might actually be represented by some things that are similar. Okay, it's still gonna be energy that is gonna be compacted in ways, but it's not gonna be necessarily bricks. It's kind of awkward to explain things, and as I said, I might have difficulty explaining certain things because of my aversion towards concepts. Okay, so all the people have intuition, all the people can effortlessly read other people, but it's just a point that ever since you are born, you're taught that everything is wrong about you, you're a failure. In school, you're taught to be afraid of mistakes, and if you don't commit to mistakes, you're not gonna grow. So the point about this is you're not gonna be in tune with yourself at all. Okay, unless you socialize and socialize and socialize and always speak with people, you're not gonna develop these things too soon. Okay, so the point is, that is why most people just stay in their shells and prefer control, and they don't want to commit to anything because they're afraid of mistakes. And INFJs usually, just like I've been, have this sense of being the rebels, being the ones who disregard ideas, and they always want to do certain things, and they want to do them their own way. Okay, that's not necessarily a specific INFJ personality trait, but it's a trait that courageous people have, and it's that point that some people have, be the trailblazer. Okay, the one who opens the roads for others. Okay, the ones who are courageous to go beyond, and even if they get lost, at least they know that they have been beating tracks that no one or very few have gone in there, just like I want to do with AI development for video games, and like expanding people's awareness about game design. Okay, so for example, as an INFJ, how many times have you been asked the following: you were right, how did you know? Okay, this is not, again, something specifically INFJ. This is something that, as I said, most people have, but IFNJs usually have a tendency towards being more in tune with this. Okay, how many times have you predicted what someone was going to do way before they did it? Okay, this is something that happened to me several times. Okay, now prediction is something that can be done either mentally, or you have an open dimension that guides you towards that. How you can do prediction mentally, this is something complex. Okay, it's what I call triangulation of moments. It's something that requires knowing very precise details about certain things, and knowing the fact that nothing in this universe happens without the universe's approval. Okay, so the point about this is knowing many details, and this usually requires being introspective, like very introspective, and having a very great sense of connection to your guides, to the universe. You can see some things the way they would happen. Now, seeing these is just a glimpse of what could happen, not necessarily that it would 100% happen. Okay, because anything that happens is our choice as a whole, as a collective, and as of individuals. Everything that happens in this world is nothing else than a reflection of who we are from an individual standpoint, because the mess that we see in this society is nothing else than a reflection of the mess that our mind is, because everything throughout time has taught us to become a mess. You can simply see it. People can't handle their emotions, people can't handle their own mind power, and all they do is just always find distractions and try to understand how would life be on other planets, how their previous lives could have been, and dream about a future life that may not happen because they're not doing the work towards that as well. Okay, and how many times have you noticed people who know that you read people's feelings and looking uncomfortable? Well, this is a core aspect of mine. I usually break people down to their most minutest of details. I take into account subconsciously every word they speak, and I've got some colossi within me that do the work, and I just get the results. And usually, especially if if I'm challenged, I might actually break people down by telling them certain things they don't like about themselves and presenting some things they're running from, and usually that makes people very uncomfortable. Now, I'm not interested in doing this anymore because it's like spending my time unproductively, but using this actually gave me a sense of power that I simply don't want to use in such a way, because I put out negativity and I don't want to draw negativity, because I've seen through this that I would draw all the negative people who had a sense of I am great, I am this, and irrespective of how much I would tell about themselves, they would simply disregard it and say that I'm lying, and they would desperately seek to turn other people against me. And as I said, okay, it's like, yeah, you live there in your little universe. I am gonna I'm gonna do things my own way. Okay, so self-mastery, maintaining an equilibrium and balance, this is kind of pleonastic, enables you to laugh at anything negative and literally tear it to pieces. If it's negative people or covert or malignant narcissists, exercise a little of those INFJ traits. Feed, okay, whatever. Okay, so the point is, you don't want an IFNJ personality. Okay, don't aim for a certain personality. Okay, just be yourself, because the moment you embrace a personality, you most likely will embrace things that do not belong to yourself. Create a cult for yourself. Okay, like, don't necessarily draw other people. Okay, create a habit, okay, of each and every day understanding more about yourself, why you think that way and you don't think like other people. And as you develop on that and become more introspective in this, try thinking about, is this way that I'm thinking actually mine, or did I take it from some other people? Okay, and the way I function, usually I create dozens or hundreds of personalities based on things that I have, and I clone them with assets that other people have, and I create different replicas that would function in different ways. And as I develop those more and more, it's like I discuss with certain people, and this is something that helps me triangulate some of their problems, because as I practice with these different personalities that I create in my mind, the point is, you might actually see me talking alone, and I usually talk alone a lot. It actually helps me to develop my public speaking and my ability to speak and express myself. And as I speak with these things, some of them are broken parts of myself or of other people, and I create more and more replicas which I make unique by mixing their features. It's like taking the, I don't know, let's say 120-ish characters, let's say, of League of Legends or whatever MOBA game you want, and you mix their abilities in between. Okay, you preserve the originals, and then you start mixing their abilities in between them, and every other character that you create, you get just added separately, and what you're gonna end up with is thousands of such personalities. That's what I do with each and everything. I've always considered myself a collector, an assimilator, more like I felt I was quite very connected to the Borg, okay, to their idea of assimilating and adapting themselves to different other things, specifics of people. And well, I've had a period in my life in which I was kind of a authoritarian, in the sense that I created a mental regime in which I would disregard everyone else, and I would just focus on developing myself in order to break and crush everyone that would stay in my way. And the point about that, it actually helped me a lot in developing some of my sides, understanding some of my sides, and how much hatred I could actually channel into that mentality, until a certain day when I said, okay, I'm gonna draw the line. The pipes that fuel the hatred are closed, and therefore the part of nature, okay, that part of me that was corrupted by this part, simply started regenerating. Okay, it no longer was that hurt. So all these being said, okay, don't practice IFNJ. Don't become another personality, just be yourself. How you discover how you are? Simply test yourself. Okay, play video games and always ask yourself, why did you choose that route instead of the other one? Why did you kill that character? Why did you not? Why did you skip that? Always question your beliefs. Okay, that's how you find out who and what you are. And always do things. Challenge yourself, go beyond your comfort zone, because that's how you're gonna discover how you are, who you are, how you're gonna react to certain things. Discover your truths about yourself, discover your weaknesses, discover your strengths, and also socialize with people. Always socialize with people, because not socializing with people is one of the reasons why people are poor. Because as it is said, and it's actually a deep thing, everything that you want is held by a foreigner, okay, someone you don't know. Not a foreigner in the sense someone from a different country, okay, someone whom you don't know, right? A stranger always has that what you need. Okay, you want to buy a game from Steam. Okay, Steam is definitely a stranger. Okay, you don't know what Steam is. Oh yes, sure, you know it's a big platform. Okay, but you most likely don't know anyone in there. Okay, it's just a bunch of strangers that do their stuff, right? They handle their own businesses, and well, Steam is just the end product. So you want something, you go to some strangers. You want a chocolate, you go to some strangers. Just because you know the barber's name or the shop assistant's name, or I don't know, that person's name, it doesn't mean you actually know the person specifically. You don't know a person unless you actually socialize with them. You speak about some problems, you take part, and not necessarily in solving some problems, because you don't want to end up as doing that. That's usually INFJs do, but not only them. Okay, it's part of people pleasing, and people pleasing is part of your development. Okay, but don't take personal development into account, because development means creating something from scratch, and personal comes from persona, which I explained previously what means. So personal development is nothing else than how society teaches you to become complacent. That is why I always disregard this aspect, but well, so many people just keep embracing it, but then wonder why their life is shit. Well, your life will always be nothing else than suffering, as long as you're running away from your own truths. And also remember, your own truths may not necessarily be that of the others. Now, you'll probably see that IFNJs will be considered the nightmare of narcissists. They're also the ones that need narcissists the most, because narcissists are some of the best, if not the best, teachers. They teach you a lot of things about self-love. Okay, now they also teach you that you're the liar, and you've been most likely taught wrong that narcissists are liars. No, they are not liars. They are authentic people, because they are who they are. Okay, their coding, okay, their personality, their traits, who they are is that. Okay, they are fully authentic to who they are. Okay, you are the liar because you're spending your time with them. Yes, you will say, but narcissists lie, they cheat, they do whatever. Yes, they do that, but that is who they are. That's why it is called a personality disorder. Now, personality disorder, you have to understand that personality is something very important, because without a personality you cannot experience this world. But at the same time, if you take personality beyond a certain level, that's when it becomes problematic. And that's what society wants. It wants you to have a personality and, put too much emphasis on that, because that's how you are being controlled. When you have a deep sense of personality, that's when you are weak, because you cannot live without that personality, and that's how you're going to be exploited by this society. When you get all sorts of programming into your mind, that's how you create personality. So when you are around narcissists, is because you are actually lying to yourself. They are abusing you, okay, and you are lying to yourself that everything is good. That's one of the lessons that you have to understand. Of course, it goes very deep, and to most people it's gonna end them up in psychiatry wards, end them up on medication or the such. But the narcissist won't care. Okay, they will just carry on, because that's who they are and what they are. They have a purpose, and they will fulfill it, irrespective of how much you like it or not. reading covert and malignant narcissists like books, this is not something that easily happens, okay? You won't realize immediately that someone is a narcissist. This takes time, and yes, as an IFNJ, the more introspective you are, the more you can become knowledgeable of certain powers that you have. You may become a bit psychic, like being able to read some people's auras, okay? And I'm not talking about that color around them, I'm talking about the way they make you feel, because if you feel that something's off about a certain person, there are big chances that that thing actually is right, okay? You may also be wrong from time to time, because when you get a bad feeling, that bad feeling can come from any other source, not necessarily that person. You can also read my you can also view my video on the Pendulum Effect, which shows how your environment actually affects you and how the history of that environment actually also affects you, and just like that, out of nowhere. So hopefully you've liked this type of video that I created. I deliberately offered more than I would, because I want people to understand that you know, introspection is going deep into ideas and not just scratch the surface. And well, that's definitely not what I'm interested in, or at least I'll probably do it at the beginning. I might scratch the surface just to, you know, initiate a curiosity in people, because that's how I want to teach people, and I'm not interested necessarily in teaching people, okay? I just want to share some of the wisdom and knowledge I have gathered, and probably to their level it might be more useful, because so many people in this world are bound to their mind, they are desperate after that, they want control. So some of the things that I have acquired may actually be of more use to them, okay? As I said, I prefer transcending the mind, and I'm not gonna say that people who are still at the level of the mind and, you know, wanting to have everything make sense to them, I'm not gonna present them as inferior or whatever, okay? Each one has their own spiritual age, and everyone has to understand that spiritual age and, you know, the level of wisdom that you have, this is not necessarily something that you should take as something bad, okay? Because make your life good, okay? The moment when you make your life good, you can actually focus more on yourself, so you can actually learn more in a certain life than in many others. All this being said, hopefully you like the type of content that I'm creating. Feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to share with others, so that we, you know, help everyone raise their awareness, and therefore we can help, you know, people come up to their senses and, you know, lose their sense of personality, okay? So they can actually come to at least a certain level of sense, okay? And well, just as usual, you are loved and appreciated. Keep up doing the good work, becoming more introspective, and you will see that the truths you've been desperately after are just there waiting to be uncovered. All the love, take care, Ferinjan Board signing out.